A 15-year-old child should not be made to take the blame for systemic failures, which resulted in the deaths of 20 children in the female dorm of the Magis Secondary School, according to Senior Counsel Timothy Jonas. Jonas made the comment on the picket line in front of the office of the president earlier today.
It's about systems. I've heard people say, oh, the ministers can't be in two places at once. Of course they can. But as the people at the top who prepare policy, who create the system, who implement the system, and who supervise the folk who are there at the schools, it is for the government, for the people at the top, to ensure that the system is there for safety, to keep the children safe who are in their custody. And that wasn't done. So it's simplistic, it's silly to say, oh, the minister can't be in two places at once, or it doesn't stop there. And it is even worse to try to deflect attention from a failure in a system to say justice will be served, we've arrested a girl that we think should be charged. The fact that there weren't enough fire extinguishers is not that girl's fault. The fact that there weren't smoke detectors, or there weren't fire alarms, or that there isn't an infrastructure to put out fires, the fact that there weren't enough, apparently, this part I'm not sure about, weren't enough supervisors, adults who had guardianship present on the compound to keep people safe. That's not that girl's fault.
He said if the child did cause a fire, then he's not saying that she should escape responsibility.
This isn't about saying the girl should not be held accountable. That girl needs to be cared for. Somebody needs to understand why she did it, if there's some kind of mental issue, or if in her upbringing there wasn't sufficient supervision. And I think we see already, there's evidence that there's not enough supervision. So we need to see what caused it, and we need to make sure that she is cared for, and if necessary, if there is some kind of accountability and she did do it and she's guilty, as everyone says, that there is accountability. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about who is responsible for the fact that after 2 reports, nobody put a fire escape, nobody did a fire drill. People continue to have bars on the windows and locking the children in, and no one could get out. Those are systemic issues, and none of those issues which create a dangerous situation and which responsibility has to lie at the feet of the government, none of those issues can be blamed on the girl.
Jonas said systems need to be in place from the time schools are constructed.
Now, today isn't the time to put systems in place. Systems need to be in place when you make the school. When you have people entrusting their children to you, into your care, systems should already be in place. Systems weren't in place when Camp Street Prison burned down. They weren't in place the following year when it burned down to the ground. Systems weren't in place in 2016 when the Sophia Correctional Institute had a fire and 2 children died. We have a paucity of leadership. We have leaders who are proving over and over again that they're not competent. And every time that is highlighted, every time something like this happens, a crisis happens, the leaders say, but look, the other side do the same thing, the other side worse than us. That's not what this is about. The whole country has declined from being one of the best places in the Caribbean to live in the 1960s to being second poorest in Haiti before some foreigner came to give us free money from oil. That is not the fault of that little girl who set the fire. It's the fault of our leaders. It's the fault of growing steady incompetence by our leaders. And the symptom of that failure in leadership is the fact that there are no systems that we have introduced, and the systems that we inherited from the British 60 years ago are fraying. They're fraying at the edges, and we're seeing that. Now tell me the ministers can't be in 2 places at once, or will you accept accountability and say they did not do their jobs, they were fully warned, fully apprised, and are therefore accountable, and need to say to the public, we acknowledge this is our fault, we are sorry, these are the measures we are taking. That's not what's happened. What's happened is you got promises of money to families, you got lots and lots of pictures on the internet and on the media with sad-faced ministers saying how sorry they are. Of course they're sorry, we're all sorry, we're all human. But that has nothing to do with the fact that they are to blame. They have not maintained the system. The system is broken down and Guyanese are suffering. And this is just one manifestation of it.
20 children lost their lives in the fire, which the fire department said was maliciously set. However, the department also said that 26 windows were heavily grilled. and 5 doors were keyed shut. With assistance from members of the community, the fire officers had to break a hole in a wall to access the children, who were still alive. A 15-year-old was charged on Monday with 19 counts of murder in the course of arson. She is presently on remand in a state juvenile institution.